alaikum, my dear students. This is teacher Hadir from Taqarib School, and today inshallah we are going to start with our second reading lesson, which is Hello Earth. First, before we start, we have to know the genre of this story, which is a science fiction. What does science fiction mean? It means that the events of the story are related to science, space, technology, and so on. Okay? So, Hello Earth. Hello Earth. Kepler Masterman is 15. He was the first child ever born on the moon. He has been brought up with few luxurious because transport from Earth is expensive. His father is the governor of the moon and is traveling to Earth for important discussions. Kepler has traveled with his father by moon ferry to the space station, where they transferred to an Earth ferry. Now they are approaching Earth, and Kepler has his first close-up view of the world. So here we have Kepler, who is 15 years old, and he was born on the moon. He also grew up on the moon and his parents lives with him on the moon. So now they are traveling to Earth because his father has an important discussions on Earth. So this is his first, let's say, approach to the Earth. Okay, let's see what happened. I craned my neck eagerly and looked through the port. I recognized the North Pendle of Central America, and then the steely shimmer of Atlantic lay beneath us. It went on and on. The planet's all water, I gasped. 7/10 of its father agreed. But, oh wow, it was feeble. But what words could I have for it? A word that was 7/10 water. Why on moon water was harder to get than oxygen? Much harder. Breathing was free. You could breathe as deeply and as often as you wished. Now that the hydroponic gardens were going, we didn't have to pay for our oxygen anymore. But water was something else. Every of it was worth its weight in moon. Minerals, dirt was removed by electronic filters. In the labs and living units, washing was a luxury and drinking a special delight. So, did you notice something? That he is using the pronoun I a lot. Okay? What does that mean? That means that the point of view of this story is first person. Okay? What does first person pronoun mean? What does first person point of view mean? It means that when the character uses, or the writer, the author uses the pronoun I a lot, which means that the character is talking about himself. Okay? So, there was no free water on moon. So he is comparing between living on moon and living on Earth. There was no free water on moon. Every once we used was extracted in the refinement of the ores we sent down to Earth, and the mining companies charged us for it. Every drop. I had grown up thinking water was the most precious stuff in the universe. Now with my own eyes I could see that Earth was covered with the stuff slopping over with it. So he notices that the Earth is full of water, unlike the moon. We orbited across North Africa and Arabia. From my port I could see that island spangled blueness of the Indian Ocean. Then the Pacific. I felt suddenly tired and a little sick. What sort of a place was this Earth, and what were its people like? Half of a world made of water, and yet they had charged us every single cup. I shut my eyes. I shut my eyes and turned away from the port. You feeling groggy? Father's voice was sympathetic. They are starting their braking orbit, and I guess you will really notice the weight difference. Don't worry, it will get worse before it gets better. But it will get better, just hang on. So he notices the gravity now, since we don't have a gravity in space or on the moon, but he is starting to recognize his heavy weight. To the Earth passengers from the space station, I suppose the discomforts were minimal. Their apparent weight increased to double and momentarily 3 times their normal weight. I had not realized until this moment what my bright of 1/6 Earth weight was going to mean. When I tried to return home, it was like barriers separating me from all these other people. Already, I weighed 6 times my normal weight. As the braking continued, it increased to 12 times. To the weight on my chest, I couldn't breathe. I felt as if my brain was going to burst. When I came back to my senses, the enormous pressure had lifted. I felt heavy and tired. I lifted my head and looked blurrily around. We had landed. I am going to be fine, thanks. It just takes a little practice, that's all. Of course, perhaps you would like to tidy up before you leave. I took her hand and plodded back down the aisle to the washroom. Good grief, I was disaster area. I took off my jacket. How crudely cut it looked in comparison with the Earth fashion I would have seen on the ferry, and what rough material. Then I washed the rest of the blood of my face and combed my hair. There was of it. It looked like a convict cut by Earth standards. So he is comparing his look to the people of the Earth, okay? So he describes his look as a convict look to the Earth people. I hesitated my hand on the rail, looking at the crowd of exactly dressed reporters, cameramen, and casual bystanders milling around my father. It really was a new world down there at the end of the ramp. From Goodbye to the Moon by Monica Huge. So this was our lesson for today. It is about the trip from the moon to the Earth, and our main character described the difference between living on moon and living on Earth. Now, I want you to write an essay about how do you find it living on Earth and what do you think living on the moon would be. Thank you for listening.